What up, everybody? Welcome to the very first. What do we call this again? Oh, yeah, Forum of the Forbidden. So, it's going to be an awesome collaborative project between me and some of my good buddies. I hope everybody enjoys it. And I just want everybody to know that tonight, the energy that we're going for is Taco Tuesdays. And then, yeah, I'll start bringing some folks up and let's get some introductions. So, first, welcome my buddy Magical.
Hello, hello.
What up, man?
Dude, hey, how are you?
Better than I deserve, man. How are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Awesome. Well, hey, why don't you give yourself a brief introduction there, man?
Okay, so my name is Daniel Cahoon, also known as Magical Journey, which I am the founder of the Magical Journey experience, I suppose you could say. I have a YouTube channel and a Facebook group by the same names. And yeah, I just have an incredibly interesting life of a lot of experience with the paranormal and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. Let's get our next guest up here. The one, the only Tom.
Hi. Hi
What up, Juke?
everybody. What's up, dude? Oh, and thanks for I don't know which one of us suggested the idea of coming on here, but we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Since Magical introduced himself, my name is Tom Franklin. I've been podcasting for about a year now. I had Jupiter for about 6 months. And I've been all around the world, former military guy. I lived in Germany 20 years. Now I am in Mexico. And I've been fascinated with the paranormal and not just the paranormal, pretty much anything that's like not like in mainstream media. The things, I can't watch the Oscars and I can't watch the Golden Globes or the MTV Awards or whatever, or any regular mainstream outlets for anything. But, I started watching like Rogan back in the day, and now I watch like Tinfoil Hat and a lot of comedy podcasts and things like that. And I started the show, and you can find me on my YouTube channel, The Eye Jupiter. And Pam has the link over there. You can also find me on Facebook under the same name. I'm also on Rumble, and you can also find me on Spotify as well.
Nice.
Sweet.
So, how do we do this, guys? How do we do this?
Well, why don't you bring up the topic? What's the topic for today, buddy?
All right. So, I guess what we are going to attempt to tackle tonight is forbidden history or maybe obscured history.
Lost.
The things that they
Lost
don't want you
history,
to know
hidden
about.
history.
Lost history. Yeah, hidden history. There we go.
Why don't you go ahead and grab everyone's link in the chat that Pam's put there for us and pop them up there one at a time so people can then find them that way as well, because they're probably also in the description. But you can also grab them and just click on them and it'll show up at the bottom of the screen.
I can do that?
Yes, on the comment section, he's new, guys. We're going to get him there. On the right side, it says comments. You see private chat, and all the way to the right, it says comments. You click on that, and you will see that Pam has already laid out all of our links for us. Now, all you have to do is click on those links.
Oh,
when you want to
that's
back
what
off,
you
you
meant.
click back. Bam! There
That
it is,
one.
son.
I thought
That
you
way when
wanted
people
me to
come
find it
on-
in the description. I was like, wait a second.
You can do that as well. It's also in the description as well, but people can also see, like if someone's on the chat, they have a question, you can pull it up, read it. That way they get a little bit of shine, and then we keep going, man. This is not only going to be a fun conversation, but a learning curve as well.
Yeah. So sorry, the inaugural trip is on my channel, and I'm not good with technology. So once we get over to maybe y'all's, we do, doing a little better. But anyway,
Anyhow, so yeah, we're going to be talking about hidden history, obscured history, lost history, things that just simply do not want you to know. It can vary from prehistory, they could say that, or it varies to recent things within the realm of the YouTube box they put us in. So we're going to have to be smart and clever with a lot of things that we say. But I think we're going to have a good time. And since Magical hasn't talked yet, I think he should kick it off. No pressure. No pressure.
agreed.
Wow. You got it.
I hope you did your homework.
I've been doing my homework for many years now.
Nice.
So here's a very interesting thing to me about this whole thing of hidden history. Over the years, like, we've had some crazy archaeological finds, some really interesting things that have gone on that just don't seem to fit the bill. Like, for instance, here in the States, there's all these things. Like, now they're starting to talk about the possibility of finding pyramids here in Tennessee, of all places. I know at one point I had read something about them finding Roman coins and an archaeological dig here in the country. So there's all of these things that just don't add up or make sense when you start finding traces of things all over the world. And then, of course, there's all this stuff like finding batteries, for instance, or things that they believe could have been used as batteries as far back as ancient Egypt and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
Things that just don't seem to equate. And then if you really want to blow your mind, let's open up the Hindu scriptures and start looking at some of the technology described there. It's like flying machines and all kinds of stuff that's described. There's even when it gets into some of the war stuff going on there and the Vedas, it sounds to many people that they're using some technology that we have now or even more advanced. So
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, it don't add up. It does not add up to what we currently believe history has. I mean, we believe that our ancestors started out as nomads, chasing around goats in a field, and it progressed slowly up to where we are now. But did it really?
No, I don't know, man. If you like look at anything that Randall Carlson has done when it comes to the Younger Dryas impact and his like tours of the Scablands, and it just doesn't seem right. I mean, if you even look up Plato's version of what's the name of the city?
Atlantis.
What's the name of the city? Atlantis. And like, this guy is like oh, thank you very much. He's like a very renowned, philosopher, and everyone kind of like, his Platonic, relationships, the shadow in the cave. So everyone's like, oh, this guy is legit. And then he writes this one thing, and now we're just like, oh, we don't know where that is, or we don't know anything about that. That's lost. And then if you just kind of give like a brief overview, like there's like if even in every like part of the world, there's some type of ancient archaeology, whether it be some type of pyramid, whether it be here in Mesoamerica, whether it be in ancient Egypt, whether it be even in places like Cambodia, like you'll always see these people, like these guys, they'll be sitting in some type of machine holding a little bag. Have you seen that?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
What is that? And then you have Quetzalcoatl here in Mesoamerica, where I am. And this is like the feathered serpent, but is also supposedly like the bringer of truth and like the bringer of like technology. So there was like maybe a catastrophic event that happened, which Carlson like outlined, and maybe we lost a lot of people along the way. Even if you look into like the DNA of it, there was like a bottleneck of where there was maybe 9,000 humans left in the last ice age, and then maybe those people who did survive try to give us a little bit of a kickstart by bringing these bags of information or whatever that symbolizes. And things like that are just found everywhere. Even if you look up things like Gobekli Tepe, which is found in Turkey or modern day Turkey, there is the only dug up one site was by a German archaeologist. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, that whole place was covered because you can't radiocarbon date like like rocks and things, silicon, but you can
Right.
radiocarbon date like plant matter and things, and all those things were covered 13,000 years ago, which then makes it older than the pyramids of Giza. But now that archaeological site has been blocked from the world by the World Economic Forum, and you're just thinking, why?
Here's a picture before we get off of that I want you to like place in your mind, right? This catastrophe, whatever it was, happens, right? And you and like a couple of folks just barely survive. And you're like sitting there covered in soot, coughing, probably smoking a little bit like from your body. Then all of a sudden you see like these fancy looking guy roll up in a ship or something. He's got like a bird head or whatever's going on. He goes by Quetzalcoatl or Oannes or
Sounds like
something like that. Something
party,
like that.
dude,
He
like
walks
after
up
a
to you
party,
and you're just
the
like,
guy rolls up in his
right. And you're just like, what in the world is my life? What's going on? Ouch. What's that? And this dude walks up to you and he's got a bag. He hands it to you and you take the bag. It's like a brown paper sack, right? You open it and
right.
it's just a
There's
bunch of
40 in it.
mushrooms.
There's 40 in it.
Yeah, he gives you a bag of mushrooms. What am I supposed to do with this, man? We're burning over here. Yeah, but this will make it way
Well,
cooler.
you're supposed to eat them, but in a moderate dose. Be careful.
Yeah. So
Be a lot cooler.
that's where my
if
head
you
goes.
did.
When I see those reliefs, man, that's where my head goes. I'm like, yeah, it's a drug deal.
Really?
Like, sorry it
Oh,
happens,
man.
but here you go.
Wow.
To me, I see it as like a bag of knowledge, dude. Like a bag of knowledge. Like, he's bringing like maybe seeds or something where he's like, you can plant these and you don't have to live in a nomadic lifestyle anymore. But if you want to go down the old psychedelic route because that's where your head is, I'll follow you.
Oh, I'm just trying to bring some comedic relief, brother.
Yeah,
So-
we'll get there.
Oh, okay. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was the time yet.
Okay. So when we're talking about this whole thing, though, with like the possibility of Atlantis, you brought up. This in itself has always been a mystery to a lot of people, and well, many people, all people. One of the things that was theorized at one point was that Atlantis itself, the fall of that continent,
Mm-hmm.
has something to do with the corruption of the government and the corruption of the people. And they had this immense amount of technology. There was things that they were doing with crystals and other things that was just beyond anything any other group of people had ever experienced before or had ever learned about before. And they managed to use especially things like quartz crystals and so forth in a way where they eventually learned how to weaponize them. And so one of the theories is that Atlantis actually created its own destruction and possibly the destruction of a lot of other places by the misuse of these weapons. And that somehow along the line, instead of blowing themselves out of the water with what we got today, they use their own version of it.
Mm-hmm. So on that note, I've got actually some notes about this interesting book that I saw a YouTube video on. And first of all, shout out to Audacious Amber for sharing it so that I could find it.
Oh yeah, she was on last night. That's right.
Yeah. So the name of the book, like I've got like half of my notes are about this book because it was so interesting. I was like, oh wow. All right, so it's called Boy's Second Book of Inventions. It's from 1902. All right, so let's see here. One of the interesting concepts that was written about in there was about this guy who went and studied earthquakes in Japan. Keep in mind, 1902 is when this book was written, so who knows when this actually happened. But in there, it's talking about how the guy that went and studied these earthquakes ended up developing and making an earthquake machine in the early 1900s. So
Okay.
that's interesting and definitely plays into that because I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, right? So yeah,
Well,
how?
even I think even what was his name? I think even Tesla was talking about that, where he was talking about
Yeah,
like where
yeah, he was looking for
there's a
like the
machine that he can
resonating
make the
frequency
vibrate
of
once
the
you get
earth or something. Yeah,
right. That he can actually. I think he was talking about actually being able to split the Earth in half.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he
And
said
I
that,
will
and that's
say,
right around that same time period.
yeah, I think that would have been in the 20s, maybe 30s. I don't know. I can't remember
Well, he did
all
like
of
the electric
that.
motor, like in the late 1800s, like the electric motor, the AC motor. That was I read uh,
Yeah,
his whole
yeah,
bio,
yeah,
and so that was like the late 1800s, and then he was doing the he made the Tesla coils and all that, like the World's Fairs. We can get into the World's Fairs too. That's something I'd love to talk about. That is one of my favorite topics when it comes to hidden history or lost history. So yeah, and he was
yeah,
doing that around the same time period with the resonating. To kind of piggyback off what you were talking about. So I don't see why it would
yeah,
be out of the realm because he
yeah.
had like electricity going through the air and
Hmm.
all the things that is tapping into the ether, and so why not? I totally would see it being a very strong possibility.
Because like the theme that I see reoccurring is that it seems like all civilizations are just like built on top of the other. Something happens, they get wiped out, start over, build on top of the themselves, and they forget about everything, and the cycle just seems to continue and continue and continue. So there's no reason why, something like that didn't happen in Atlantis. And they were like, "Oh, look what we invented. This is so cool. How are we going to test it? I don't know. Press the button. Should we really press the button? Press it!" And it presses, and then bye bye Atlantis. And then it happens again, happens again, happens again. Nothing new under the sun. It seems to be, like I said,
Mm.
a cycle. It repeats the same old thing over and over and over. So yeah, it's 100% possible. Good call. Good call.
Is that part of the comic relief?
What, me turning my head to look up at magical? Making sure I have to like stare at the
No,
camera to
it's
make
just
sure I'm looking
the
at the right
way
part.
it was just. Yeah, so you got a little light shining on your face. Did you get yourself a little light, man? I got an old cheapo from Walmart, just shining around. I got to
No,
change the light bulb. It's way too intense. Way
I
too
just got
intense.
like really bright lights up here in the attic. This was like my workbench where I do like my reloading and gunsmithing projects and stuff. So,
Yeah, I looked. I seen behind you. You got your little cabinet back there.
oh yeah, and that doesn't
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
count the armory racks that are lining this entire shelf and cases. Oh yeah, we got
Okay,
firepower
all
here,
right.
bro.
Be careful, guys. We have a Republican. Oh man, yeah.
Don't
So
tread
you're in
on me, boy. I
Tennessee,
tell you what.
Tennessee. You're from Alabama, or are you from Alabama?
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I live in Alabama.
I know you live in Alabama. Are you from Alabama?
I mean, sorta. I was technically born in Ohio
Okay, all
until
right.
I was like 8 years old, and then I moved here.
Sounds like a bunch of blue Democrat hogwash to me. I'm from Maryland, so which is like the bluest state, even more than California. So for me to be like uh, against the grain and stuff.
About to say, you over here saying I sound like I might be saying some blue stuff. What you talking about?
No, it's just
America.
fun. It's fun. Like the thing is that like I love like figuring out because I know you guys, but I don't know you guys. I know Magic a little bit longer than I've known you, Jim. You would show up on the chat from time to time on my show, and then we just like I did interview you. Your interview was coming up. Your CE5 experience, which was incredible, and so like I like to try to get people in to know what we are because I think to make a good podcast, it's about knowing who we are, where we're from, and the little things that make us the same as well as different. And
Right.
it's funny, you have a whole armory upstairs. I do know not to go mess at your house. What about you, Dan? You got any rifles up there?
I am gun free. The
You need one?
No, the protection here at my place is, let's just say I don't need a license for any of it. So there's,
Oh, okay.
but it's very protected.
So, are
Okay.
you, do you mean Blue Chew? Is that what you're using?
Oh no, no, no. My, my, no, my protection is much more ancient than this.
This is my rifle. This is my gun.
Yeah.
Come on,
So-
Magical. We got to make you laugh a little bit, buddy. That is the
We're
goal.
gonna get. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. Don't worry about that.
To be fair, I'm probably have like the IQ of like a 2-year-old turnip right now.
That's a big old
So it's like Thursday. End of the week for me is like
All I hear is a fucking humble brag. Come on, dude.
So let's just say Scott Carpenter would be very impressed by the protection circle that I have around this house.
All right. That's interesting. I think what's his face is doing something with Scott Carpenter or about Scott Carpenter because of course he was passed. But yeah. The old Scott Carpenter would be Daryl Denton, a modern day somebody we all know. Yeah, he'd probably be impressed. Okay, all right. So you've done that. You've done that because you're about to go into something. I know that we're not gonna pop that cherry. I know you want to do it on your own channel. I kind of know what you're planning on doing, but that's pretty cool. So back to hidden history, guys.
Well, the thing about hidden history is everybody seems to like to build obelisks.
Yes.
What are those?
It's the phallic symbol. The phallic symbol.
Exactly. So actually, we are on topic. When you think
about
it.
Okay. Dude, you're good.
I know. Anyways,
obelisk. Okay, there's obelisk. I think the first one I know of was built. I was watching it in Spanish. It was built in Rome, but I'm sure there's much older ones than that. Of course, Egypt probably has some obelisk. Of course, you have the Washington Monument, which I've seen. Next to the Obama Monument, to do a Family Guy reference.
He's got a
It's a joke. There's the Washington Monument. It's the
Oh.
white one. It's a little smaller. Then there's the Obama one. It's bigger. It's just it's a joke.
Oh, yeah, he definitely is a joke. I'll give you that.
So what do you think? What do you think the obelisk represents? Maybe you can maybe enlighten me a little bit about that.
Me?
Yeah, you're the one who brought it up.
Oh. I was still just trying to be topical. Okay. Well, off the top of my head. Let's see. What could they be used for? Well, I mean, a lot of them are like, what, granite? So there's some piezoelectricity right there that can be channeled from natural movements of the earth anyways to be broadcast up that you could sync up to. Which also has to play into lighthouses, if I'm also not mistaken. But I'll get there. But yeah, I mean, that's just what I think is going on with that generally. It's a, hey, look how proud we are, and let's throw some energy up there from our root chakra. Yeah. What do you think, Magical?
Yeah, that could also be tied back to Tartaria.
Yeah, good.
So I wondered about that myself before because I play around with energy grids at this point and crystal grids a lot. when I think about the idea that why were they not used as some kind of almost network?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, everything in our modern history, you know, we kind of like, we look at it and we play on it. We think, oh, this is a first, this is a breakthrough for humanity. But what if everything that we're doing, like you said, nothing is new under the sun? What if everything we're doing with networks and all this is something that's already happened at least once or twice before, let's say, just for the sake of not blowing everybody's mind by how many times this could possibly have happened before? Um, Wait,
Yep.
because here's the thing. When we talk about hidden history, are we not only just talking about our history, or are we talking about timelines as well?
Hmm.
Mm.
Interesting.
Because,
All right. Please expound. That's interesting.
okay, so here's, and I actually asked this at a conference not too long ago, because I had someone challenge me and tell me that they thought I was schizophrenic because I had these experiences, but I found out I'm not the only one that has this. So driving down the street, you come to an intersection and there's nothing or nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
You get ready to pull out onto the road and you realize that you feel the presence of another vehicle that you cannot see fully, but you can see it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's there, but it's not.
Right.
And you wait till it passes by for you to drive onto the road, but you realize that there's no reason that you should have done that because the vehicle was there, it wasn't there. Walking down the street, nobody around. All of a sudden, you feel the need to veer around to let somebody else pass that's not really there, but you know that they're there somewhere. Now, some people would be like, okay, these are ghost images, these are mirages, this is a figment of the imagination, but you can feel the physical presence of these things around you. My theory on that is that time and space are folding at that moment. We're actually seeing something happen in the same place, different time. With that said, this is kind of what I'm talking about, is timelines are all like the past and the present and the future are all happening at the same time, right? That's a
Right.
theory. That is a theory. So with that, there's got to be moments where those things, because of some fluke or whatever, kind of all come together at the same place. Different times, but the same place. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of one of the things that I feel is a thing that's actually happening in our world. I think a lot of people experience this. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And it's like, have you, like the whole thing with seeing things out of the corner of your eye, or people experiencing things where they react to something that apparently isn't really there. You know, you see this all the time. Animals are a good example of this too. They'll all of a sudden jump or whatever for no reason whatsoever, apparently. But could this be what they're experiencing, is a fold in time at that moment, and they're experiencing something from the past to the present moving in their direction?
Maybe.
Well, they definitely have a sixth sense of sorts. Like even during, like I think I heard during the tsunami of like 2004 on in Sri Lanka, like they were like all the cows and chickens and snakes and cats and all that stuff started headed up towards higher ground, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" And like I think 20 minutes later, the tsunami hit, and it's just like that. I don't know if that's picking up of like some type of energy, or they're just some type of sense that we do not possess. But I don't know what that has to do with, like, I don't know. Well, how would you tie that into hidden history, though, Magical? What do you mean the timelines crossing and therefore maybe interacting and bumping into each other? And did we like jump from one where we're like technologically advanced?
Right.
We're back to like, cavemen? Or is that what you're saying?
I believe there are times when, for instance, finding things that should not be in one place, like finding Roman coins in the United States and so forth. I believe these are examples of the possibility that a physical thing is left behind when these things happen, because I don't think you necessarily have to be. I don't think you have to be in the exact same spot that these things happened in. You know what I'm saying? In other words, I don't think
Yeah.
in order for somebody to experience a lapse from the time of Rome to now, I don't think you have to be in the exact spot that happened in order to experience it. I'm
That's
not even sure
interesting.
how it really, we don't know how these things work. That's the thing of it. But what I am saying is somewhere along the line, all of these things kind of loop together, if you will. And I think sometimes some of these things that people say are a glitch in the matrix could be a good example of what we're seeing, the folding of these different time periods coming together.
Or maybe even
I
like
think,
deja vu. Maybe even
yeah,
deja vu, the phenomenon of deja vu, where like I'm like, I've seen this before. And I remember even mentioning to you that I'm seeing it, it's still going, and then it fades away. Sometimes they're really long, like a minute or 2 minutes long. And you can go like, okay, this person's going to come in the door. And you're like, I remember saying that at the same time too. That's an interesting concept. And then like they're kind of looping and crossing into one another and bumping off. And then maybe some type of catastrophic event happens, or there's some type of because I think the reason that our past is being hidden from us. I mean, we're talking about Tartaria, we're talking about the orphan trains, we're talking about the World's Fairs where they would take like Chicago and then like build this entire like 100-acre like park and then like completely drag you through there to show you what the history is. Or even like was it the Rothschild school system where they make you where like they ring the bell, you get up, you have to go to your next job, where they train you to be a certain way. So therefore even now, like with Disney, where they'll take characters and they'll change their race. I don't care, but I kind of do because it doesn't make any sense. So what they want is that people, our children or our children's children, are unable to talk to us about certain things because we can't communicate because they change it in such a manner, in such a fashion, which we don't have the same information. So that happens a lot too. It's just I think there's a hidden hand behind a lot of this stuff. You know what I mean? The mere fact that the WF shuts down Gobekli Tepe, or there's this pyramid also, I think in Indonesia, where they drilled down and they supposedly have found like, wood from 120,000 years ago. And they're like, in the Indonesian government, I think it might be Malaysian, I'm not quite sure, or, Laos, like it's over there in Southeast Asia. And they're like, oh yeah, you're not allowed to do that. And it's like, why not?
Is that the one with all the like basalt pillar looking things that are like laying everywhere all throughout it?
No, it looks like a pyramid. It's like a mountain that's shaped. There's even one I think in like Serbia, but this one is like I can't think of the name of it. I thought of Ora Pendek. It's a small humanoid figure, but it's like it's a pyramid. It's shaped like a pyramid, but it's all with trees. It's all overgrown because it's a jungle.
Right.
And like I said, they've done like core drills into it, and they've supposedly have found, like these like organic matter from a very long time ago. They've done like ground penetrating radar, and none of it makes sense. And then the government's like, "Nah, you can't have any, no grants, and you're not allowed to come on here and actually do any type of."
I think the name of that site is called Godong Padang or something like that. I mean, I'll throw a little southern slang on top of that and see if it works out right, but it's something like that.
So
I'm sorry, I think my internet's on the fritz.
Oh
no. Well, you are in the rainy season right now, right?
Yes, every day.
So you mentioned the World's Fair a couple of times. One of the things that's very intriguing about what you're saying is I know for like Knoxville, because they had the World's Fair in Knoxville in 1982. They built this thing called the Sun Spear there. And the Sun Spear has been sitting there all this time in what they call I think they call it the World's Fair Park. There's only two things still standing there from the 1982 World's Fair: an amphitheater, a theater, and the Sun Spear. And you see this thing everywhere. This is like the icon of the city now. But it's been sitting empty for years. There's no plans to do anything with it. It appears to just be this thing that they're very proud of.
Right.
But it has no purpose.
Or meaning.
Supposedly.
Well,
but what if those things that are still existing from the previous World's Fairs are trigger symbols to get you to remember the things that you've experienced from that World's Fair?
Are you saying
what?
Because I go from the nefarious angle. You're saying you're coming from an angle in which maybe they're trying to trigger our mind into remembering something.
Wow.
I didn't even know they had the World's Fair anymore.
Me too.
They do, actually. I can't remember where it's actually scheduled, but if you research it and look it up, it still happens throughout the world. I assume the last one was like in the 1980s when it was here, because that's the last time I've heard of it. It's not something that they like. If you notice, they don't spend a lot of time on it anymore like they do other events. But yeah, if you look it up, there's it's listed as events online still. So yeah, apparently they do have that.
Wow. Because even the Eiffel Tower is from I think the 1888 or 1892. I can't remember exactly. It was built from the World's Fair, and now it's like lit up like a Christmas tree in Paris, and it's still, I think, might even be the
and
highest.
They throw that symbol in everything.
Tall structure for 30 years.
Mm-hmm. They throw it in everything. We use it. Well, we don't use it, but the grocery store. The grocery store. Yeah.
They have it in Vegas, right?
Oh yeah. Well, probably. They've got the pyramid and everything else in Vegas.
I think they do.
Yeah. So it's very interesting how all that comes together, and I think these are all supposed.
What I'm talking about is the changing of what we knew to be history, where they took and they said, okay, this is what happened. They would have like entire like themed areas of like the Riviera of like Italy, or like the Roman times, and they would go through and have like gladiator fights, and they would go through and like take children and say, this is what happened, and then they would go, and that's like pre the school system, like when the school system was set a certain way, and then they would take those children, erase the past, and then put you into school and turn you into obedient, like workers. And it's just very interesting. I don't really adhere to the sun thing, and who knows what that may be. You'd have to look into that a little bit more to see if it has some type of other meaning, because what they like to do is they like to put something up there to make you accept it, and once you accept it, then you're a part of it, so they have no culpability in what's happening. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, you accept it, so therefore it's okay.
What do we call that? Sigil magic?
Sigil magic.
Sigil magic? Something like
Sigil.
that.
Daniel, please correct me if I pronounce that incorrectly. I think it's called sigil magic.
No, you're right. You're right.
Even for the longest time, I thought it was crazy. Here's the ones, it's kind of off topic, but it's been tripping me out. I'm a big metal fan. I've been listening to metal music since I was like 12, 13 years old. I bought my first Metallica album. Big metalhead guy. My whole life. I've played it. I sing it. I've performed it numerous times, over 200 times. I've done a couple albums. Like back in the 80s, there was like the Satanic Panic, and like they're like, this is the devil's music. And, you know, there was some of that, which was intentional. You know, you look at, Ozzy, and you look at Slayer, and you look at bands like this. There was a lot of that in there as well. But now, because you remember, like, hip hop like started like in the 80s. You know, like 79 was Sugar Hill Gang, which they stole their music, but that's not the point. But like it was more like, we're a suppressed population within the inner cities, and this is what we see every day. Hey, we're cool. Let's keep going. We can fight. And in the 90s, it was like, let's pop Cristal. We got these, we got these bitches around, and we're partying and all that. And then in the 2000s, it turned into like a pop thing, and now it's like satanic, dude. Like I watched like Lady Gaga, like she's not hip hop, but I remember seeing her like being like crucified at the MTV Music Awards, and I was like, look at this with the stigmata and all that stuff. And like it's just crazy how that went. And now metal is kind of like underground, which I think metal is better now than it's ever been, in my opinion. There's so many great bands with a lot of crossover and a lot of cool potential. Music, because I know that we all listen to Tool, which isn't metal, it's more prog rock metal, somewhere in that area. But it's just so crazy how they've taken this art form, which turned in, which came from, the poor and impoverished people, and then it became mainstream. And then they took that mainstream thing, and now it's hypersexualized for the last 20, 30 years. And now, not as only now hypersexualized, it also has a lot of like satanic like messages in it. There was like this thing that happened a couple years ago. I don't know the name of the artist. He was like on stage, and there was like a couple people who died at his concert, and he's just like singing or whatever he's doing, listening to this music and just looking at him as they're carrying these people out, and it's just like, what is going on here? Or you'll see like
sacrifice,
all these young kids now wearing like Metallica Slayer shirts or like System of a Down. Like I seen my girlfriend's niece, and she was wearing like a Master of Puppets shirt. I was like, "What's your favorite song from Master of Puppets?" She had no idea. I'm like, "What is that? Why is this? What are you doing? You're talking about cultural appropriation." Tom just pounded the table here. Has nothing to do with hidden history. I'm sure there's somewheres in there. I'm sure we can find something. But it's just it's just something that I've noticed. I hit the table again.
I am offended with you. That's our culture, and I'm gonna take it back.
I've always been a little curious about when it comes to rewriting history. Why there is so many things that mark like territories with family names, but the family itself has nothing to do with nothing. My family's a perfect example. Like the Calhoun family time to everything. That name is marked all over the place. There's even a restaurant with a name on it. But what exactly did they do to get to be recognized in history? Because all of my folks were farmers and miners, and were like literally po-white trash. Okay, I mean there's nothing spectacular seemingly on surface about any of them, and I can tell you with my 16 brothers and sisters, most of them are pretty average or below. So why did this family name show up on it? Yeah.
I was actually wanting to interject that too. Is that for real?
Yeah, they all had different mothers. So, well, most of us had different mothers. There's subgroups.
Also,
and all of that.
Hey man, pimping ain't easy. That's awesome.
So,
no kidding.
But the point is, though, is why is this name, like, there's literally only one person in the history of this country that is in the history books with this name that really means, like, really pushes it out there at all. And he was the vice president for, who was it? Jackson. No. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And it's like,
Jackson,
other than that, why is this name on everything? It's on street corners. It's like colleges. There's everywhere you turn, you see the name but it was also the smallest clan in Scotland at one time too. So why is that so important? Why did this happen? What did they do that gave them
Oh, okay.
notoriety enough?
Mhm.
Yeah, but yet you don't hear anything, you don't see anything. Now let's push it even further. Scotland, next to Greece, is the one country that has a small country that has produced the most beneficial things in modern history. And when I say that, let's talk about the telephone, the television. Television was also created by somebody who supposedly was a hypnotist, by the way. Uh,
Look
Penicillin
up the
came from
patent.
Scottish
Look it
people.
up, folks. There's a patent on it. There's a patent on it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things that, like, if you trace a lot of the stuff that we take for granted in this country right now, it goes back to Scottish ancestry somehow.
Right.
Okay.
So, what exactly? Why Scotland is like literally one of the most insignificant countries in the world right now. Nobody, like, if somebody says on the in the global theater here, they mention Scotland, people are like, and
Yeah,
what are
yeah,
they
true.
doing?
They're
But yet they,
drinking and hiding from the
yeah,
rain and chasing sheep.
literally, we used to call it, we used to say that basically all Scottish people knew how to do was drink, fight, and the other F word that we can't use on here. Um,
Oh, fun. Okay, I got you.
yeah,
They
that's
do
why I
sound
have
I
like
mean,
a fun
16
drinking and
group.
brothers and
fighting, it
sisters.
has to be fun, right?
Right.
Right, right. That's why I have 16 brothers
Very
and
interesting.
sisters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well,
Yeah.
yeah, but you also, but fun is also the root word of the word funeral. Please continue. I'm sorry.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. So this is what I'm saying though.
It's not a
Why
bit
are
of
these
mine.
things? Why are these little remnants of things still existing? But it makes no sense why they're there. Why, like the
Right.
and why do we like? Why does the media and history books and so forth downplay a lot of these things that has significance at one time?
Mm.
Because I can tell you now,
Well,
the history I was taught, the oral history I was taught in my family, is completely different from the history that is in the history books. I got kicked out of school at one point for arguing about history with a history teacher.
oh yeah, I got in trouble with a teacher where they were talking about like I think there was, I can't remember the number. She was like the ways in which drugs affect your body, and you can smoke it, you can ingest it, and you can put it on your skin. And I was like, okay, so does that mean suntan lotion is a drug? And she was like, no, because it doesn't affect your skin. It doesn't affect your body. Like, yeah, it does. It actually
Yeah.
does affect your body. So, and then she basically ran into a wall. Looking back, I think that was like they kind of beat that out of you. They take that out of you, like the ability to question authority. And
Right.
having that, my father's a very authoritarian figure. He's a loving guy, but it's a different time, so you kind of forgive a lot of that. And then you go into the military, and then once I got out, I was like, I'm not letting anyone tell me anything ever again, except for people that I love or people that I respect who gain and earn my respect. Not that I'm like, you need to, man, go ahead and wow me. Not like that, but like people that they say things that I can either go back and look up, or I can have a conversation with them in which I feel they're not trying to, they swindle me or, like make me feel dumb for some reason. But
Right.
like for people who just come out and because they're wearing a specific uniform and they have a whistle or they have a college degree, doesn't mean jack squat. It means you know one thing that you study for 8 years, and I believe a trash man is smarter than you are for most. Oh, but you don't, because science has become that. Archaeology for sure, which is a whole part of this tying up. I realized that it was a bunch of crap when I started looking into Egyptology, and they look
Mhm.
like you can't go there and take measurements now. You can't go there and like say, why is this sarcophagus stuck sideways in this hole and it's perfectly cut out and aligned, or it looks like they use an ice cream scooper to scoop this part out, but yet this is rough. How is this? How is this? This megalithic like rock 100 meters up in the sky there. How is that possible? Don't ask questions. We got books for that. And it's just like, we can't ask questions anymore. Isn't that the whole, I mean, that's what happened during the pandemic. You can't ask questions. I'm not allowed to ask questions, and that's what bothers me mostly about the authoritarianism that they push down our throats and able to even like like what I'm trying to say is that that's the way history is taught as well. Not to ask questions, not to go through and look at it under your own in your own way. And if you try to look it up, a lot of even like the internet, like Google, if you type in something that you're looking for, like the Great Pyramid of Giza actually has 8 sides instead of like 4, for example. Some crazy things like that. I'm just bringing up an example. Like, how far that is down in the Google, like all the way down. You have to go in like 4 or 5 pages, and then after that, there's no more. Like Google, it would be like it'd be something crazy like 900 pages or something, and now it's like 15. Like the internet has been emptied out and cleared, so that we can't even look up things. You have to actually go into the libraries again and look into encyclopedias again to get things that were readily available like 5 years ago. So they're doing that as well. They're scrubbing that out. They opened the genie's bottle. They opened it, and then they were like, "Oh, we got to put that back on." That's why you can't say things like the F word or the D word or whatever. So that's another thing. If you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have anything. That's for sure. That's the first start. Without that, you don't have nothing. Sorry.
Well, they started. Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it, bud.
Go ahead, Jim.
So, yeah, Jim, go ahead.
No, because I'm fixing to roll into something. So go.
Okay, so they started this thing actually. If you think about it, at the point where priests had the authority over teaching the people, people did not know how to read. So all knowledge came from priests and from the leaderships. Then all of a sudden they decided, hey, let's start teaching people how to read. What was the point of that? But when they did that, they had the control over censoring the information that people got. And it's never changed since. And that's the point of it. And when you do find things, and this is one of the reasons why they do not want you. There are certain techniques that some of us know and use that they do not want us to know and use, because we have the ability to tap into places other than books and other than things that you can physically hold in your hand to program you, and other than your television and radio, to get this information. And they suppress that information as much as they can, try to make it out to be hokey, quote unquote, new age stuff to keep people away from it.
Yeah, they want you to be smart enough to run the machines. They want you to be smart enough to fill out the paperwork, but not smart enough to realize how bad you are being treated. And what they do is they give you 2 choices on election day, but they give you 32 different flavors at Baskin-Robbins, baby. Because it's a meaningless choice. It's meaningless choice. The real choices that we really want and need, instead of looking, and they want you to always look through the eyes of fear. You notice that too, to keep you within your 5 senses, because when you look through the eyes of fear, you go down through, the cerebral cortex and the mammalian brain into the reptilian brain, and then you'll do things that are against what you actually believe and want out of fear. So we all know the game, and it's all tied into everything that they do. And we say they. Right. Who are they? It's like a group of like 300 families. There's maybe 1,000 people, and at this point, it may be more. Jim's over there rolling around his eyes. He's thinking. I got Jim thinking over there. I see smoke coming out his ears.
9 families. Carry on.
9 families. Oh, okay, don't name those families. We will be busted.
I know. Trust me. I know.
I named the ones that they let us know. Rothschild. That one they let us know. Which is actually Rothschild. Rothschild is we pronounce it. That means red shield. Whatever that means. Shield. Red shield. Rothschild. That's what they say. But that's the game they play, and it's not only in what you see, what it is with history, it's about what you put into your body, because diet is not only what you ingest, it's also what you see and what you hear. And we are now living in a very sick society in which most people are medicated on some type of drug, whether legal or illegal, or illegal. Excuse me, I think I said the same thing twice. But that's it's all part of the thing. They want the masses to be like at a certain level, because when you're at a certain level and you control information, And that's the biggest control is our history, where we come from. There's always like, if you don't follow history, you're doomed to do the same things. Like, well, let me actually look at it, please. But that's the game they play. Jim, you wanted to take us off to another course? Sorry.
No, actually, I mean, I'm just going to fall right into what you're saying and just back it up. So,
Sure.
like, the question with that is like, cui bono? Who benefits? Who benefits? It's these fat cat bankers. They set up the education system. They want you to be dumb and make them money.
They want you to be in
what
debt.
It's all about.
They want you to be in debt.
Exactly. So, like, why? Or maybe not. Well, yeah, that. But also, and where does that seem to come from? Like, what's the purpose? Why? Why?
Control.
Instead of hiding all this, why not just let it be there and let us figure it out and build on it, and then we can become super cool people?
Yes.
I mean, why? What's the point? I think the point is this. Like, and all the research I was doing, like, I've got a notebook here full of stuff that I wrote down. And, the more I kept thinking on it, it's like, it all seems to come back from the same thing every single time. And I'm hitting the table quietly. And it's like, okay, so I see two things. I see a whole bunch of Babylonian money magic going down.
Okay. All right, now we're talking.
And then, like, the whole Babylonian system of control. And it goes back to, like I said, why? Well, if we're able to do all this stuff for free, ain't no fat cat bankers making money. Who controls our education system? Who built our education system? Fat cat bankers, Rothschilds, and all them fellers. Right? So we got to make them money. So we can't, I mean, and look, like in recent examples, like look at what they did to Tesla, right? He's like, I'm going to make all this free energy.
Hey,
like, no,
Mickey
you
G.
ain't. What up, Mickey? You ain't going to make no free energy over there. I mean, because I've got these notes of people making generators and perpetual motion machines using like radon gas and stuff like that. So why can't we do that stuff now? Why do we actually, when we sell a house, have to disclose if there is radon gas or leakage before it can even be sold? Because it seems like in the past, people had these labs set up doing all this stuff before.
Oh, it's being suppressed for sure.
Right. So, okay, so if that stuff exists for free, we can be debt free. We can be whatever free.
Right.
Why? Well,
He's
there's no
building
money
thesis.
in it.
He's building
Yeah,
a thesis,
there's just
guys.
no money in it. But yet the evidence is there. It exists. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best to like.
Yeah, you got it, man. We're going to get there, dude. Don't worry about it. We're getting there.
So here's like kind of what I'm saying is that the very first commandment we were given at creation by God was to be fruitful and to multiply. You can't do that if you're a slave to debt.
Oof.
You can't. Who made money?
Ooh, God, dude, you are really good at this. I think I know where you're going. Keep going.
Who made
You're killing
money?
me right now.
Who made this slavery that encompasses everybody? Where did that system come from? The Babylonian system of control. And everything is tied into in our modern day. So all of a sudden, all right, so we got all these things happening in different isolated areas. All right. So like say over in Utah, they found like these electrical furnaces in the 1800s. Yeah. They found them in the 1800s. I think it was the 1880s. I can't remember. Right. So this is like as example. So these electrical things, these furnaces that they found God only knows how old they actually are, but they seem to hook up to like the electromagnetic field of the earth and could reach temperatures of 7,000 degrees. They were discovered by a John Levy. Let's see here. They made this insane special alloy. I don't know if I can pronounce it, but it's spelled Carbondium.
Cardboard.
It could be connected to water wheels and all kind of stuff. I mean, like they could harness the energy back who knows when, right? And use this stuff. And this stuff is so freaking hard. Like we cannot reproduce it today.
Wow.
Coal only gets to 3,000 degrees. I mean, we can't get anything that hot, hardly.
Could you tell where people can find that information? If we're trying to expound information, where you found that at?
John Levy was the discoverer, and the book is the one I mentioned, the Boy's second book of inventions from 1902.
There you go.
Okay. But anyways, like these things could like cut diamond, cut granite, the special metal that they could produce.
You're saying this alloy was harder than diamonds?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Which is interesting, especially if you think about, okay, we can't recreate that. What's that even look like? And then we think about UFO stuff, and we look at the material that we've analyzed that we can't.
Those are weather balloons. Come on, man, stop it.
Yeah, right. But I'm just saying, like, for example, right? So this stuff happened hundreds of years ago, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't we do that today? Well, if you hook it up to the river, you hook it up to the magnetic structure of the earth, that ain't making nobody money. You can't do that. You can't go and get yourself some radon and use that to create and grow your own diamonds like they were doing in the 1900s. You can't grow your own lab-grown meat like they were doing with radon in the 1900s. Not that I trust that stuff anyways.
I would skip that, thank you.
Yeah. No. If you have that much abundance, you are going to manipulate and control the markets and create depression and chaos so that they have something to save you from. That is always the calling card, and it goes back to the Babylonian system. That is what you have to do every time. That's why there's always catastrophic events burying these civilizations, right? When they start get going and doing some cool stuff, seems like the overlords are like, oh, cool, look at that. Turn on the earthquake machine. Boom. Bye-bye, Atlantis.
Wow.
Boom. Bye-bye, all North America.
What do you think the Nazi like they had this huge like uptake in like technology? Where do you think they got that from? Because I'm not saying there's a definitive answer. I'm just asking your opinion.
My personal opinion. Oh gosh, what was that cult?
And why did they not attack Switzerland? Because the First World War is where the Bank of Settlements, I think it's what it's called. That was in Switzerland. Where is the CERN Collider? In Switzerland. Where's Davos at? In Switzerland. Where's the G8 meetup? Switzerland. And for some reason he's like, I have the biggest war machine in the world, and I'm not going to attack them because they're neutral. That's what happened. Mm-hmm. That's what happened. All right, guys. Okay.
No, you're not wrong.
Let's wake up a little bit. Right, because remember, the Nazis didn't lose the war, gentlemen. The Germans did.
Germany lost the war. That is
because that's just if you're talking about the Babylonians, that just moved into to the Venetians, the backwaters of the Catholic Church at the time, as well as the Orthodox, and they were in collusion with the Nazi regime because they didn't say, "Hey, don't do that." They had many chances to stand up against Hitler. They didn't do that. And why didn't Hitler attack Switzerland? I've been to Switzerland. It's a hollowed out, like a big fortress. It's this big, dude. They could have went in there. They could have went right through Basel. They could have took the Autobahn number 5. It runs right down the river and it runs right into a valley that takes you to every large city in Switzerland. It'd have been easy, dude.
Right.
It'd have been easy.
Right.
Why didn't you do it?
It do be like that, though.
Isn't it interesting that Switzerland for once, for the first time in our modern history, is no longer a neutral country.
Whoa,
Oh, yeah?
I didn't know about that.
Well, I mean, are they really neutral? They've joined NATO. How
Did they
neutral
join
can you
NATO?
be?
Yeah,
Oh my
this
god,
year.
I must have listened. You guys are okay. You guys keep the news and you tell me.
They joined NATO. So how can they hold their neutrality?
They're not neutral anymore. Then, of course.
No, they're not neutral any longer. They've now joined the West and Europe. Now, I
Mhm.
don't know about what they're saying now as
Hey,
far as the modern era of conspiracy goes within the churches. But at one time, especially during the 80s, and like the churches and the end time churches especially were saying that the Roman Empire would rise again through Europe.
Right.
That was a big thing.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, of course they can't stay neutral. I mean, if they want to get rid of 100% of the evidence that would show anything to do with something crazy and conspiratorial like Tartaria, where's the last bastion of that at? Russia. That's got to be
so
enemy number one. We can't let that happen.
I'm playing the
No, no,
Tataria
no.
song because I knew we were going to get there eventually. Come on, let's get to the spires of the domes where they could actually generate electricity freely. Oh, I knew we were going to get to Tataria. I was just waiting for it. Yes, the Tatarian Empire, the
Yeah.
mud floods, the
Mud
giant,
flood, son.
the not the butt plugs, the mud floods. I told you I'd get him. I got him laughing. Yeah, like if you go to these buildings, you could be in nowhere's Kansas. I've been there. What is Topeka, Kansas? Nothing. It's a flyover state. I've been there. I was stationed in Kansas, and you see these marble, like giant, like freaking like state buildings, and then you look down at the bottom, and you'll see like the window, and then you'll see that the window goes down farther, and you're like, well, that seems to be some type of like architectural oversight. You know, I think that this place, this side of the planet, is the old world.
Mhm.
Because if you
Oh,
look at
I
the
100% agree.
absolutely, they've done lidar in just Guatemala, which is about 5 hours from here, or
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't remember, San Salvador. I can't remember exactly where they did it. And
You
they
could
found
definitely make the argument that South America is actually Atlantis.
yeah, because
You
of the
could make the
hyperspeciation,
argument,
the
yeah, that
hyperspeciation of the moon.
the actual Fertile Crescent and all that is like the Gulf. There,
Yes, I
there
have
is
heard that
more.
one.
There is more radon
Why do
in
you
the
think it's
Gulf of
called
Mexico than
Alabama?
anywhere else in the world.
Why do you think it's called Alabama? Alabama, the crescent,
Yeah, yeah.
the crescent moon on the
Uh,
flags. Alabama, Arab, Alabama. Come on, man. Where
yeah.
are we
Blackberry
playing?
Arab.
Well, anyways, you totally made me lose my train of thought.
You were
Where
talking
was I
about
going?
Tataria.
I thought I was talking about Atlantis in South America. Oh,
You were.
Okay.
well, phew, it's
Whatever.
gone. It's gone.
Sorry about
Anyways,
that.
but you're right. Like that mud flood stuff is so interesting. How's come? I mean, even here too. Like, how's come there are so many buildings in these old cities here that are like 3 and 4 stories and like layers down, and
Yeah.
everything seems to be connected by tunnels, and like they'll freely admit to it, but they'll be like, so like it's all unexplored. How? Because this stuff was already here and then it got buried, and then they remodeled and made it happen again, and then it got buried. Why? Because stuff started taking off.
Yeah.
We have everything we need here. It started taking off, and they're like, nope, earthquake machine, plasma electrons from the sky machine,
Yeah.
what
Paint your
have you.
blues. Paint your roofs blue, guys. Paint your roofs blue.
Right,
Um,
right.
like think about this, guys. A little side note, but it's kind of tied into it. Like every major city, whether it be Boston, Chicago, Baltimore, Washington, all of them in the 1900s, early 1900s, had a Great Fire. Every single one of them. San Francisco has an underground network of like sewer systems that make no sense whatsoever. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, go ahead, Jim. I'm just trying to help. I don't know if I am or not.
No, I had stats on that. I'm just trying to. Ah, crap. Where'd that go? I had stats on that. Like, it was only like 15% of the sewer systems and tunnel systems that are in London, England alone have actually been explored. And there's just all riddled. It's like 15%. There's like 80 some odd that they don't have no clue about. Why? How could that be in the modern era with all of our record keeping and bookkeeping and stuff like that? How can that even be possible? How can there be a giant city found while digging for a well 300 feet below the surface of nowhere, Missouri? Humongous metropolis city.
Where? Which part of Missouri?
In Missouri. 300 feet down. How is that possible without a mud flood? I don't know the part of Missouri. This is just like random to people talking that I just put down.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Is it real?
Sparked my interest.
I don't know. Yeah, it sparked mine too. That's why I wrote it down. I was like, oh
Jerry!
Sweet. Squirrel!
My Kramer impersonation. Oh, Jerry!
You know, but I mean, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. Anyway, magic. Well, yeah, buddy.
So, you're talking about this. I really don't want to go too deep into this because this is a podcast for another time. September the 4th, by the way. But there's a book out called, and it's been around since the 1930s, called The I Am Discourses by Godfrey Ray King, that discusses an underground city underneath a mountain here in this country. And there is graphic detail that he goes into, describing the descriptions of things that he sees there. Art is not something that you can just you would have to spend hours and hours and days trying to imagine this stuff in your head, even if you could. And in the 1930s, I seriously doubt some of the stuff they could have imagined in their head, because some of the technology that he goes into in that book doesn't exist now, and much less then. So,
or did it?
There you go. So here's the thing: we've always been given these, as people say, weird conspiracy theories about underground cities and mystical places where people can't really put their finger on what is happening there, what's going on. Could this have been things that have existed for very, very long periods of time in this continent? And we don't know the origin of at this point. Or do we? And how do they play into this? Because I can tell you now, if you look at some of the things that happened, especially during the 1980s, and so there were crazy movements going on back during that time, and a lot of them were deemed cults and all kinds of things, where they were trying to get this information back out. Unfortunately, though, if you notice, there was also a period or a portion of society during that time that were considered great thinkers. They were celebrated for being ahead of their time.
Oh, like Oprah Winfrey. Okay.
Yeah. Well, even better than that. I mean,
facts.
Sarcasm.
Some of these people were very well-known people. Every one of them on my list all wound up with Alzheimer's before it was over with. Every one
Oh,
of them.
wow.
Oh, that
That's
brings up a
crazy.
great point.
Every one of them. Now, I'm going to give you a name, and if you research this, you'll find that she went a little crazy over her time, and I don't agree with everything that she taught,
Ah,
but I will tell you this: Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who was a complete nobody in the 1970s, sprang up and in a matter by the 1980s had a worldwide organization.
mhm.
There was things that she was teaching people and things that she was information that she was expounding, and she pointed people to the I am discourses and said, hey, look at these. There were things that she was talking about then that were highly suppressed. A good example is she did a lecture that you can't find anywhere now on with a doctor who had a theory that HIV was a combination of a brain rot virus and some type of leukemia, and one came from cow and the other one came from goat, and they
So
were
like
combined together.
manufactured. Okay.
Yeah, they were. It was a
Possibly.
manufactured virus
Possibly.
from
Possibly.
from like brain rot and this type of cancer. Now, interestingly enough, two of the opportunistic diseases that were rampant during that time period
Mhm.
was Kaposi sarcoma, which is a type of cancer that was very aggressive in people with immune deficiency at that point, and toxoplasmosis, which is a brain disorder. It
Oh,
eats
wow.
away the brain. Those were two extremely rampant
Oh,
opportunistic
wow.
diseases among the HIV and AIDS community at that point. As a
Wait,
matter of fact, yeah, as a matter of fact,
toxoplasma?
toxoplasmosis, yeah.
Toxoplasmosis. That's like now it's like a cat, like it's spread by
Yeah,
cats and
that's the
mice.
cat, a parasite thing, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm following you. Sorry. Keep going.
So these were things that she was trying to tell people back during her time. And eventually, of course, we found out that she had Alzheimer's before she decided to step away from her spot in the church. But her career with the church ended with something called the shelter cycle there in Livingston, Montana, where she had made a prediction that there was going to be an altercation between the U.S. and the USSR at that time. And they began building these monumental fallout shelters there on the ranch, and it ended in a huge disaster for her. But everything up to that point was her accumulation of trying to teach people these things that were going on that were not really, they were hidden in plain sight.
Mm.
Hmm.
If we talk about AIDS, we got to be very careful. There's a thing I want to mention here, so I got to make sure that you people out there watching this look up the drug AZT. I dare you.
Oh
And
yeah.
what that did, and actually what it was initially meant for, that they had to shelf it because of its effects or side effects. And I'm not
Oh,
a doctor by any choice on the matter.
right.
And once they realized that it wasn't effective, to put it
Hmm.
mildly, they shelved it again. But they did that so because of all the money that they put into it. Let's put it that way. Very
Thank you,
interesting how
Dr.
many
Fauci.
people might have been hurt, uh, could have been now, bought the farm, and that wasn't necessary. It's the present the problem, make the problem, present the solution, and therefore take some of your freedom in the process of it.
Hmm.
That's what they do, guys. We've seen it. If
Yep.
you aren't awakened by now, then I don't. I love you anyway, but it's not much I can really do for you. And I think a lot of people are kind of like, it's kind of like a, cognitive dissonance where they don't want to like accept the fact that that happened. And yeah, I've read it up many times, so that's the reason why I'm here. And I think they just took that off the market too. The old cat scene, right? That get taken off. Yeah, think about that, guys. It supposedly saved lives, but 4 years later, they took it off the market. Okay, anyhow,
Crazy.
it's really crazy. Now,
Mhm.
if they can do that with something as simple as a medical thing, where they can possibly, maybe, who knows? We're not any medical experts. Then what else could they possibly do to affect our thought processes and like bombard our bodies and affect us in many ways in which we're not able to see the forest for the trees, to use some type of like crappy quote that I once heard before. And if an erection is in the forest and it falls, does anyone hear it? One of those kind of things. Like where we are is that we are in really some type of like some type of setup maze that is not natural, in which they want us to constantly be bombarded by some type of either false information. They want to attack your body, and they want you to feel that you are alone. They want you to feel alone and separated from everybody. You know what I mean? They don't want you. They want to keep you within your five senses and not even talk to your neighbor. This is what they want. They want us to be, like kids playing their video games all day long. Because Fisher, I think you're a little younger than both me and Daniel, but when we grew up, we were outside. My dad would kick me in the butt and make sure I was outside. And if they can do that with a simple thing that happened 4 years ago, and up until recently, what else can they do? If they can do something like that, where we have all the technology today at our fingertips, and they suppress, even now, you can tell I have to censor myself, that I can't speak freely about it. I have to go on an alternative platform to do so. If they can do that now in this day of this age of like information, which is not true, then what could they have done, say, back in older periods? So, yeah, okay, Amber, you want to go? You want to attack that? You want to hit that? Or okay, Amber, has anyone ever noticed that the birds have been pretty much barely out and pretty much quiet the past 2 days? Really bothering me. The bottoms of the clouds are all flat like a ceiling. Oh, I think I just seen a video about the flat bottom clouds. That's interesting. Is that like a harp thing, Amber? Is that like a harp?
Flat
Maybe.
bottom
Flat
clouds
bottom
make the
clouds, you
rocket
make the
world go
rocket
round.
world. Oh, you're going to thunderstorm tonight.
Had to.
Oh, she says, yep. Okay, so you think it's a harp situation. Why are they firing? It's so crazy right now, dude. It's so crazy what's happening. Like,
let's just press the little mini black hole button and see what happens again.
Oh, you think this would? Oh, you mean CERN? Because I think Pam. By the way, I think since this is the first episode of us three guys, I think we should take a moment, because we were talking about Pam behind the scenes. Pam, sorry, we're not going to talk about everything that we're thinking about, but from us three, I'll kind of speak. We want to thank you so very, very much for helping us, for being the rock, for being a person we could bounce ideas off of, and being the loving soul that you are. You are amazing. And from all of us, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you very much.
Love ya.
You are all those things and then some for us. We need you in our lives.
Yep. So, you know what's interesting?
I finally got to hear her voice the other day. That was amazing.
No
way. Yes, I agree.
You know what's interesting? When you look at all like these stories about high technology and stuff like that, and when you start digging, there's like some interesting themes that always seem to reappear.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys saw it when you were looking, but like there's always mention of giants and little people amongst all of it. You guys notice that in your research?
Oh yeah.
You did?
Well,
Okay.
You grew up in this area, so I'm sure at some point in your research you probably read something about the pygmy graves in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they've tried to knock that down ever since they first discovered them. So yeah.
I found it also interesting, like, because I was doing just a little bit of research on it, and I was like, okay, let me hear more. And they started talking about actually my state of Alabama, and with like DeSoto encountering giants while
Mhm.
he was here in America, and he fought with Chief Tuscaloosa. Oh, that's here in Bama, right? And his son, Black Panther, Wakanda forever. Anyways, and they were like 10, 12 feet tall. It's like, dang, what was going on? And when you look at like the histories of just the oral histories, they are all over our continent. North America, South America, they're everywhere, but they're like hardcore over here. And I find that fascinating. It's like we can't discount. I mean, all right, so did they have technology and stuff back then? Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like they could. But they also had these big old dudes that could lift up some big old heavy rocks too. I mean, maybe they didn't need to levitate things all the time. They could be like, hey, big fella, go get that sucker and get a couple of your buddies and lift that up over. You know? I mean, that's very much on the table as well. I mean, it seems like it's just so prevalent. And the further back you go, the more and more technology these giants seem to have, and they seem to also just gift to us. Sometimes at the, point of a sword, but still, it's there too. And it's like, what's going on? What was going on here? There's so much of it. I mean, down there where you're at, Tom, there is so many legends I saw of them coming from the inner earth and having civilization down there and
This
then
is
coming
all
up.
caves, man. All this is caves through here. All of it.
Yeah.
They'll tell you here, like, that there's a Lucius down here, and I just heard another crazy story that I want to kind of like combine all these stories and put them out. But like every time you run across one of these, they hide in the caves, and every time someone like runs across one of these things, they're like little people. They're like little people. They're like 2 to 3 foot tall. And every time
Right.
you run across them, these people get fevers, and some of them last for 40 days, and some people develop stutters, develop all kind of strange things, and sometimes even get unlifed. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like it's pretty insane, dude. So I didn't, let it be known, I didn't do any studying for this episode. I did.
I
I
knew it.
did. Yeah, of course you did. I always fly by the seat of my pants. I always find it to be better. It's just me. It's the way I do it because of, I think, probably my stand-up stuff that I've done for all my for
Right.
almost a decade now. This is that kind of thing where you just think, listen to podcasts, and I do look at things occasionally from time to time, and I go, oh, and it kind of sticks in my head. But yeah, I don't know too much about the giants. I do know, there's the Nephilim thing. There's the giant of Kandahar that's very famous. There's the red-headed giants that I've heard about, and
Paiutes,
the
yeah.
little people. The little people, I haven't heard too much about them. Maybe like gnomes and forest people and things of that nature. But and when it comes to hidden history, I don't know what did you find?
Well, I found a lot of instances where, for one, like buildings were being built by them. I found a lot of instances where, in a lot of temple complexes, that there are just oversized doors
Oh,
for everything. Like it's so in excess that it's like it's beyond like being grandiose, right? It's
okay,
like they're trying to accommodate these things, and
okay.
it's like
That's
interesting.
why the castle doors in like Europe are so huge. Like what are you driving in here? Like a double decker bus or something, dude? What do you have a slingshot?
I mean,
All
you
right.
got to keep the dragon somewhere, right?
That's interesting too. That they're in the flags and stuff. Yeah, that's such a cool
Yeah,
rabbit hole to
all
run down.
over.
Those I like too. Those are fun. I guess we're going to be
Sure.
finding so many things to talk about. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How much do you know about the geography of North Alabama?
Uh, enough to be dangerous, maybe.
So do you know about the cave system under that area, right?
Which cave system?
Throughout all of North Alabama, or a good chunk of it, I should say. And this includes Huntsville, Alabama, Newmarket, Alabama, Hazel Green, Alabama, among other
Oh,
places. There is a vast cave system. As a matter of
yes.
fact, two good examples of this cave system is the courthouse in downtown Huntsville. When they
Mhm.
built the new one, they had to dig into the cave system, and right under that courthouse, they filled in that area with concrete to be able to build the courthouse on it so that it would not eventually
Sink.
sink in.
Right.
Right.
Right across the street from the courthouse on one side where the Big Spring Park is, there is a white bank sitting there. And that bank is on a cliff. And if you notice, there's a plaque when you go down into the courthouse that has a little bit of a history blurb there. There is a little lagoon type water feature there, and across from that, going into the cliff, is an opening for a cave. That
Right.
particular opening was used by Jesse James when he robbed that bank.
Oh.
The interesting thing about that is that that opening feeds into the cave system that we're talking about. So it's a vast honeycomb of caves. I'm not sure that it's ever been explored at all in our modern time, and it's very seldom talked about. You'll never hear people talk about it, like in public or whatever there in that area. I believe it's around the Ardmore area. There's a huge section, maybe more toward Pulaski. There's a huge section of government property that's completely fenced off, and supposedly there's something to do with the cave system there as well.
I think, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like, that whole little area is certainly just riddled. I mean, it all connects to actually, if I'm not mistaken, there's actually an entrance into that tunnel system that's closed off that I used to go to as a kid all the time.
Mhm.
Shoot, just down the road from me. It's called Hole in the Wall. It's a really cool place to look up. But anyways, yeah, it's all honeycombed up there, especially in the north. It's really interesting. And Raccoon Mountain, I think, connects to it, and up there in Chattanooga. I mean, it is so fascinating. And as I told you while you were there in Huntsville, if you want to do some digging, there's a lot of reports, especially in the caves there in Huntsville, of the rake.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
Oh
Now
yeah,
you got my antennas up. And we're not
yeah.
talking about garden tools, ladies and gentlemen.
No, we're talking about the creepy little golem
The crawler, whatever they're
thing,
called. I think it's another word
crawler. Yeah,
for it. Yeah.
crawlers. Oh yeah,
And
that
to-
place is riddled with them. Riddled with them.
Yeah. So you're saying the cave systems also might, so what you're trying to allude to is that these cave systems are like a potential place where some of these giants or smaller people might still be found. Or
Oh
it could
yeah,
also be, it could also be like some type of offshoot for like maybe these forest people, Sasquatcher people are running into as well. They might all be
exactly.
connected. Yeah, that's
hmm
wild, man.
and
And
notice where this aligns with the 33rd parallel.
Ooh, we did a
ooh,
whole podcast on that. It's all right
Notice
fascinating.
where
there.
notice how this aligns.
Mm, good call.
It runs right through there, don't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, even where I live is close enough to the 33rd parallel that some pretty interesting things occur here. I mean, look at the phenomena that happened around the Smoky Mountain National Park.
Right.
So the 33rd is powerful enough that it reaches into the 34th and 35th parallels.
hmm
And I don't think a lot of people really pay attention to that. They focus on the 33rd itself, but they don't understand or don't pay attention to the current that flows around the outer perimeters of that,
Right.
which eventually they will find, if they haven't already, that some of our hidden history is very much connected to the that area, that the area of North Alabama has something there.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the Space and Rocket Center and the Redstone Arsenal placed where they're placed? Huntsville,
Well,
Alabama was like literally Newmarket, Hazel Green. Hazel Green, Alabama during the Civil War was bigger than Huntsville was at that time before it got
oh
burned
yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
crazy. I didn't know that.
Huntsville was literally never much of anything for the
Mm.
longest time. It was actually called Twickenham in its beginning.
Oh, that's
And
neat.
if you look at, well, that's because downtown is still called the Twickenham district.
That's because we got tweakers, though. It's.
I thought it was because of Twix.
I mean, maybe. But with that said, though, why would you
Oh, I'm
why
sorry.
would
I
you
just had
have
a
a place?
terrible story come into my head about what I used to do when I worked in Alabama. I'm sorry. Let me just get this aside. It's
I
hilarious.
used to tweak. Used to be a tweaker. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So like, there's all these like bridges that you, well, not bridges, but like the roadway that you go over and go under the underpasses and all that. I know you know what I'm talking about, Daniel, right?
Yeah.
53 and 431 and all that, right?
Mhm.
When I used to work out there, and the red lights would take forever, and that's where
Yeah.
all the tweakers would be. And I used to roll down my windows and throw change at them and watch them fight over it. That was my entertainment.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, sorry. That's all. Carry on.
It's a bit malicious. You could have. Damn.
But it was funny at the time. I'm not saying I was a good person.
We're not
back
saying
then.
you're a saint, but you know.
Just saying at the time, I thought it was hilarious.
Wow.
Anyways, carry on. Sorry.
As a matter of fact, just to give you some idea of how things have shifted, there was a time during Tallulah Bankhead's time in Hollywood where all of the celebrities used to actually go to Birmingham, which was the party place, the capital of the nightlife in Alabama during the 1930s or so. So even during that time, Huntsville was not really that big of a deal. It really wasn't. So why all of a sudden would you put, and then we've got Boeing there, we've got, what is it, Gold Star there, all of these organizations
Blue
that,
Origin, Raytheon, Lockheed, we got them
yeah,
all.
Really?
all the great technology centers are all focused there now. And I used to marvel at that because, you know, every kid in the country at one time longed to go to the Space and Rocket Center, especially when Miss what was it, Miss Baker was still alive, the space monkey. Yeah, when she was still alive, we all wanted to go there just to see Miss Baker because that was the first thing we learned about space in school. But why is this so important? Why Huntsville of all places? And the controversy behind building I-565 to get there.
Right.
That was a huge thing back during the early days of planning for that. There were all of these people opposed to it, and then all of a sudden the local governments there were fighting people to get that put in. Why is Huntsville, Alabama so important?
It's interesting. That Raytheon, because I'm former military in Lockheed Martin, and NASA are all agencies that get like government contracts through the Brown and Root. Is Brown and Root up there too? Who knows? They're the ones that run all the generators and all that. Because when I went to Kosovo, like I was the signal. We'd have our packet switches and our line of sight vans, and you can then basically I could call from Kosovo using the military system and call my parents back in the States when I was there. And then slowly what happens, there's this thing, I think it's called Dragon something, I can't remember the name of them. Then the government contractors would slowly, they were making like, between 70 and 100,000 a year. And this is 25 years ago. And we're down there making pennies on the dollar, being the U.S. soldiers. We're out protecting the fort on the perimeter, and in the inside are all these, these government agencies. But being from Maryland, I'm not from that area. Maryland, we got D.C., we got Fort Meade, we got the NSA, we got Aberdeen Proving Grounds. We have all that stuff. We have Andrews Air Force Base, Fort Dix, everything. It's up that area. And so when you guys talking about that and looking from the perspective of Maryland, you're like, why in the hell would they do that? That makes no sense that they would put something of that magnitude. Houston, Cape Canaveral. Okay, Cape Canaveral, that makes sense, supposedly. If you want to shoot a rocket and put in geocentric orbit, you want to get it around the equator, so you use the least amount of, so that they stay up longer. Right. Houston, I kind of get it. It was a big hub of the oil industry. It was kind of a large city. It's a big place, But Huntsville, there was a big, Fox Jeff budget. Fox Jeffworthy. That's a good one. Jeff Foxworthy joke. He's like, they're not letting people from there do this, and
they ain't letting people from there fly them things.
I'll tell you that for sure.
So. Let's tie this into your mention of Nazis a while ago. Who was the person who spearheaded the space?
Werner von Braun.
What?
Werner von Braun. Werner von Braun, or Werner von Braun, I heard you say it in English.
Werner von Braun, boy, I tell you.
I don't know how to say it. I can't say Eva Braun. It's Eva Braun. Or Eva Braun. It's like 20 years, two decades. You're talking about the guy
von Braun was
the V2 and the V1 rocket in Germany. Yes,
von Braun. There was a few who was, he basically won his freedom by this, from being, instead of being a prisoner of war.
Project Paperclip.
To do this. Him, I know there was some English scientists, because I used to know one of them's wife stayed in this country when he went back home, and she was actually working in the mayor's office here in Nashville, actually, at one time, until she passed a couple of years ago. So there was some English scientists that were involved, and I'm not sure who else was involved for sure, but I do know that von Braun was definitely spearheading the project. Mm-hmm. So we had a Nazi scientist thrown into Podunk, Alabama, as they call it, to help create the space race, which was highly important at the time. Why would you drag him all the way from Germany to Alabama? I mean, I know what we would say in Tennessee for punishment, but
it's, I think the question is, they centered it. You're killing it, dude. They centered it there. They put all of that infrastructure there to do it. The question is why they put the infrastructure. But the reason the USSR got half of them, and then the Americans got half of them, and a lot of them got pardoned. They didn't go. They didn't face the war crimes in The Hague and what's the name of the big trials? What's the big trials where they hung 7 of them? I can't think of the name of it. Which was all a ruse, because you actually read those doctrines and you would see that what happened 4 years ago would fall right underneath of all that. And I actually looked. Oh yeah, look it up. Any type of medical thing that is not completely, you cannot. Right. Coerce in any sense, that is all in those documents, and those people got hung for that. And Mendele and all those people, they all got hung for that. It's just an interesting that they would take those people and pardon them because they wanted to go into space and they wanted to go to the moon, even though there's the Van Allen belts and all the telemetry data has been lost, which is like,
yep.
Well, that would make sense if you went through the Van Allen belts, but you had to go through there to get to the moon. Then, okay, I don't know. I'm just pulling apart and teasing things. It's just I think it is a very interesting point that you guys are bringing up. Why Huntsville? Why not San Diego or something?
I have a theory. I think the reason is because they had so many pig farms at the time, and they had to elevate their schnitzel game.
Oh, I thought you were going to go eggs and bacon, but schnitzel is guy of the Scheiße. It's good stuff. I like schnitzel.
That's just my theory. I don't know. Maybe I need some workshopping for it.
You might want to dig into it a little bit more. Hence, pig farming.
Pig farming. Yeah, they like pigs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but if you guys get a chance, if you don't know anything about Tartaria, look into it. It's very fascinating. It's probably the largest empire ever existed on the planet. And a lot of these, if you look at it, the West is like I think you were mentioning too, Babylonian, and Tartaria is the Tartarian Empire. If you look at all the cathedrals in Europe, the way the spires are made and how high they're pointed up and the way they're made, that it might be some type of electrical grid. And basically, Russia is the leftovers of that empire. And and you notice they don't fall under certain banking systems. There's a lot of things involved in that, and that's a lot of this. What's going on? The buildup of NATO headed slowly and closer to Russia, and now Russia going. I'm not for either side. I'm being a veteran myself. I think it's all horseshit. But at the same time, there's some type of like ancient like bloodlines and ancient hatred going on there at the same time. We can't like just not go, oh, there's something there. And it's all connected somehow. And like look into Tartaria, it's going to blow your mind.
Yep. 100%.
All right. So we're pushing the 2-hour point. You want to go ahead and plug and get up out of here because I got to pee anyway.
We can. Hold on a second. I had one last thing I wanted to say, even though I've got all these notes because I did my homework. Hold on.
This section is called "Look at Jim's Forehead."
Yes, that is what we call it. All right. I guess basically what I want to go do is harp on like that point again, just real quick and briefly.
Sure.
That whole Babylonian system that is controlling all this. Like the seed that I want to plant as I garden for everybody is this. They want to control you. That is the ultimate goal. You cannot be fruitful and multiply if you are a slave to their system. That is why you are not allowed to have all this technology that you can set up and do yourself for free. You can't. And they also have to fund their system. That is ultimately the goal of this Babylonian system, to enslave each and every one of us and to control us. It is the direct opposite of what we are commanded to do, and it is the direct opposite to what will free you ultimately in the end, because just so you know, no sacrifices have to be made for salvation. It's free. It's free. So I just want to leave you guys with that. Hopefully that maybe plants a seed up in there. But when you look at it all, man, it all goes back to every single bit of it. When you
think of slavery, we always think of what happened in the Americas. Slavery has been around the world forever. Even like what happened in Libya and all that, it's like now free market slavery again. When you think about that way, that's not the way in which I think Jim is trying to portray this. We are now put into a debt system into which you are a servant to the system. So do your very best. I know it's very difficult because now we're playing with funny money. All the money that's been printed ever by the U.S. Treasury has been the last 5 years. 80% of it in the last 5 years. So therefore, there's your inflation. I'm not even into like what is it, economics or anything. That's pretty easy. You know, the more you have of something, the less it's worth. Pretty simple.
Right.
But that's what they want. They want you to be a subsistence slave. But this time you get to choose what kind of slavery you want to do. You get to choose it. And you're never completely out of it. You have to pay some type of property taxes. Even if you're 70 years old and you've had diabetes or you are unable to do the things you used to do, you still have to be a part of that. And remember, in the end, Jim goes from a Christian point of view. I'm completely fine with that. I go from, I guess, more of a new age, I guess you want to call it, point of view, is that to free this is to free this. And if you free this, then you connect to that. And when you do that and you realize the system you're in, at first, you're going to be very angry and upset. And you're going to pound your hand on the desk and you're going to be upset. But realize that's another part of it. They want you to be upset. They want you to put you in the fear-based, I need to get up in the morning and do something I don't want to do and able to feed myself.
Got to jack that loosh.
To trying to jack your loosh, exactly.
Yep.
Which is a Sam Tripoli. I don't know if he took that. I don't know if he coined that or not, but I've heard it from him. He's one of my heroes. He's a comedian who kind of does what I do, so it kind of falls into what I do anyway. But in the meantime, go out, talk to your neighbors. Try to have new experiences. Hey, you never had Indian food? Go try it. You might love it because I do. It's spicy, but I got some hot sauces around here that'll make your nose hair straight. Just go ahead. I got him laughing again, Jim. I got him.
Yes.
That's going to be the episode. It's going to be called Let's make Daniel laugh. Just get right with yourself. Get right with your maker. Get right with God, and whatever faith you follow, and realize that it's all a game. And the connection that you really have, the power in which you really have, is your choice to choose and your choice to love, which is easy to do. And all you have to do is just kind of like let go. And a lot of things then come back to you, and you just keep widening that circle, spiral out, keep on going. By the way, I will be remiss that we were all Tool fans and not mention that Daniel does not look like Maynard James Keenan a little bit. Doesn't he?
You know,
he kind of does.
Now
don't
that
he?
you mention it,
he looks like Maynard James Keenan.
If we just make him stand up and start singing in his underwear and tidy whities, he'd pull it off.
Or put like a mohawk
Nobody
on or
wants to
something.
do that.
Exactly,
Nobody
the mohawk.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying though, how do we complete the look? That's how we complete.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. We'll
get there.
We'll paint his face up and all that good stuff. Daniel, any last parting words, buddy?
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, I totally agree with you guys, obviously, on the whole thing of the truth will set you free. And that was one of the things that really stuck out when Tom was speaking, is this tagline has become used and overused to the point where we literally do not understand the importance of those words any longer. It's kind of like, how are you doing today? Nobody really means that. They just say it because that's what we say, right?
Right.
In fact, the truth will set you free. We are still in the slave era and the slave bond at this point. And when I say we, I mean those who are not freed and freeing from it. Renew your mind. Paul talked about renewing the mind frequently. You have to renew your mind. You have to open your eyes, and you have to think past the box. And all of this, all of the answers and all of the questions are in plain sight. And they are hidden in plain sight. This is why they want to dumb you down, so that you don't see what the obvious is. And by the way, and this is going to be the last thing I say on this week, they finally came out with a study that says that fluoride is connected to the dumbing down of America. They've discovered that children, something with the fluoride is affecting the IQ of children now. And
They finally admitted that?
They're finally admitting that. I heard that on the
wow.
AP network of all things
About
this
time.
week.
That's weird. Why would they say that now? I'm thinking the first thing I think was like the timing. That's weird.
They're now admitting that at this point that they have dumbed down people through fluoride. Now, going back again to Elizabeth Clare Prophet, she was talking. She told her followers to stop using fluoride in the 1980s. She was saying that as vehemently as the Mormons say, "Don't drink coffee."
Hmm. Nice.
So, just remember, even out of the mouth of quote unquote cult leaders, truths are being spoken. You have to find them. You have to unwrap those nuggets and find them.
Yeah, you have to dig everything. You have to sift through everything. There's a lot of truths and half truths and lies and a lot of things. Even your best friend sometimes. You know what I mean? There's some people because it may even be unconscious that they do that because they've heard it, so they just kind of that happens too. It goes in and it comes back out. It like touches something in a person and it comes back out. Doesn't mean it's the truth necessarily. It doesn't mean that the person is lying to you necessarily either. They're not mutually exclusive. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
So you guys want to go ahead and plug your stuff one more time? Daniel, go ahead, Daniel. You were talking last. Fisher will let you go at the end because you're the one hosting today. Go ahead, Daniel. You were talking.
So again, YouTube, Facebook right now are the two platforms that I'm using the most. Magical Journey on there. And yeah, go on the Facebook group for sure for updates on future projects.
Fantastic. Yeah, my name's Tom Franklin, the Eye of Jupiter. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Rumble as well as what's it called? I always forget this one. Spotify. I don't use it very much, but it's on there as at least a placeholder. And join me live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week, I will be having on Ross, but he calls himself Roz, and we will be talking about the Mandela effect. Get your questions ready, and I'll see you guys there.
Awesome. Well, guys, obviously, you know who I am because you're here. We're hosting it on my channel.
I love the certitude and the little head bob.
So everybody knows, this is going to be a thing for us three. We're going to try to rotate it between our channels, so I don't know where it's going to be at next time. It's going to be one of the two over there. So if you liked our attempt at staying on topic, make sure you go and like and subscribe to them. Also, make sure you leave a like for me and a comment if you would. I'd appreciate it. Trying to grow the sucker. And I'm going to leave you with this, something that was slightly topical. I wish I would have got to it, but I'm going to read to you guys out of Ecclesiastes. All right.
All right.
What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already, long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. So,
love you guys.
Keep that in mind when you think about hidden history, guys. I love all y'all, and
I love you guys too.
You guys for coming on.
You guys.
All right.
And Pam, my baby.
Yes.
Thank you, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Y'all be good. I love you. And yeah. Fisher, Tom, and Magical signing out. Peace.
Peace.